Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, you got some good ones. I'm ready for rapid fire today.
All right.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
I feel like we're kind of coming to the main event here anyway, because Salty did have a question about one Chad Bowden. And
Yeah.
with this first one, I'm just going to ask you, fill in the blank.
Yep.
Southern Cal football has released a social media video that's captioned Wide Receiver U of the past, present, and future. It has former Trojan wide receiver Mike Williams talking about how great Southern Cal is. And while he's talking, they show some of his highlights from his college playing days. And it's blank that all of the highlights in that video are of Williams playing against Notre Dame.
I'm trying to think of a good blank. That's the problem. Like, I've got plenty to say about the whole situation, but like a good blank, like it is dangerous about that. It's dangerous that all the highlights are of him playing against Notre Dame, because all of those highlights, like somebody put on social media, like every one of those highlights is in SD. Like they're not even, that's like before HD even. Like get those, like, could you come up with a highlight from this century? Like that would be great. You know, like I don't understand. It's like when I'm meeting with a parent and they're like, we're going to take our kid out of your school. And I'm like, that's not the threat you think it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't think that was the flex that they think it was. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't think that's what you think it was. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at.
To be exact, I counted, the video was 48 seconds long. I counted 11 different highlights of Mike Williams at least catching a pass. Some of them slants, some of them otherwise.
Yeah.
Like they were all against Notre Dame.
Comeback. Like it's a hitch. Like,
yeah.
Is that really on your highlight reel? Like,
the whole, living rent free in his head thing is probably, maybe it gets overused, but it's also a thing, and like, it feels like this is a thing because obviously, we were asked about the recruit Mosley committing to USC. This came out a few hours, I think, afterwards. But, this is a little bit, it feels like this is a little bit like Chad Bowden continuing to mark his territory. He's like a dog marking his territory out there at USC. It's like he knows other dogs have been around. So now he's lifting his leg, trying to mark everything, and make sure that, it's like, this is my spot,
right.
Don't come into my territory, but, again, it's like, if I were going to meme this also reminds me of, like the Pete Carroll, Jim Harbaugh, what's your deal? What's your deal? Whole thing, like I'm waiting for that, it's like, it's just very odd. And, like you mentioned how old this stuff is. We know that USC has been, like they've cranked, just like them and Ohio State have probably cranked out the most NFL receivers over the last couple decades plus. Like we know that you're a good wide receiver school. Maybe you might want to recruit a guy in the secondary every now and then, though, because, like, how's it gone trying to stop, other schools, like Notre Dame, for example, but like I did the math on this because Chad Bowden is 30 years old, and we know that he was a USC fan when he was young. So when Mike Williams, like when all these highlights were being made by Mike Williams, Chad Bowden was probably sitting in his living room wearing a number 1 jersey, because he was like 17, 18 years old in high school, so now he's like, ooh, I can go talk to Mike Williams, and he's fanboying over Mike Williams, and they make a, this whole, what he thinks is a great video and everything. So it's, it's just, I don't know, mark your territory. That's what it seems like. It just seems like very, I just, with everything that he does, it's just like, really, dude, like you're just going to keep going a little bit lower, trying to take your shots down there.
Just not the flex that he thinks it is.
No,
just say that,
Salty says apparently Bowden's recruiting includes a lot of clips of USC beating Notre Dame. Is there some bad Chad blood? I mean, like, do you think that maybe, like the Bowden Freeman relationship was rocky at the end?
If it wasn't at the end, it is now. Like, that's how I feel, like with some of the comments that he's been making. How could it not be? How could it not be? Like, dude, you're going to Really, you're going to throw shade like that after you left? And if you didn't work here, there's no way you get a job there. Like,
Exactly.
Really? Yeah.
You're enough of a Notre Dame fan when it was giving you the platform,
Right.
to build your career.
Well, and like, don't burn bridges, man.
And that's
like,
the thing. It's just one cheap shot after another now.
I just feel like in this industry specifically, in college football, in coaching, like, it's a small fraternity of people in the grand scheme of things. Stuff gets around. You better hope it works out at USC. I'll just say that, because you're burning some pretty serious bridges, in my opinion. And there's going to be a lot more people on Marcus Freeman's side than on yours. So, just be careful what you wish for. I'll just say that. Be careful what you wish for.
Petty. Salty says he thinks Bowden marked his car last season. Sounds like I don't know what kind of neighborhood you're living in there, but So, speaking of, Stymie says, why put out there at the same time they're threatening to end the series with Notre Dame? And this is something that we talked about yesterday. Jesse and I talked on the show about the comments from the USC athletic director that at least cast some doubt about what's going to happen in the future with Notre Dame and USC. We both decided after seeing her comments, we're like 50-50 on whether, like how far we think that USC will kind of keep it around. But I threw this idea out there, because she was talking about the travel thing, and it's a big issue with the travel. So what if instead of playing USC every year, which obviously has been going on with the exception of the pandemic for a long time, since the 1920s, what if Notre Dame plays home and home with USC for 2 years, then they go 2 years home and home with Michigan, and then they just keep alternating that, revolving that going forward. So you got 2 years USC, 2 years Michigan, 2 USC, like you do that indefinitely. Buy or sell it.
All right. I got two answers to this.
Oh, okay.
So if you're telling me that USC wants to cancel the series, okay, and the only way to get them on the schedule is to do the 2-2, I'm in. That's fine.
Because one of the options that we talked about is if you're trying to convince USC, okay, you don't want to do it every year because that's so like maybe you want to do it like 2 years on, 2 years off, something like that. Yeah. And then that's when the Michigan idea came into play as well, because obviously you've got to fill those other 2 years with something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if that's what you're telling, if it's an all or nothing kind of a scenario, and you're saying, hey, it's either the 2-2 or you get nothing, I'll buy it. I will buy that, because I don't want to lose this rivalry. I think this is the best rivalry that Notre Dame has, bar none, and it's not close for me. So if you're telling me it's USC every year or the 2-2,
sure,
I'm sticking with USC every year, right?
This is the alternative. Like if you're trying to save something to keep USC on the schedule, at least intermittently going forward.
It's a concession that I'm not enthusiastic about, but I would take it because it's a compromise, right? Like, I'm willing to compromise as opposed to losing it altogether, right? Or getting it like once every 5 or 6 years, or something like, I don't want to do that either. So if you're telling me it's not going to be every year, then I would be on board with this. Okay. I want it every year. I want it every single year.
Sure. I think we all do. We all want to see it stay around.
Yeah, unlike the other California rivalry that they have. I want this one every year.
I totally agree. Personally, and I know that you want nothing to do with Michigan, but I also personally think it would be a great way, like if Michigan would want to do it, to get Michigan back on the schedule at least more regularly, because those are two great rivalries. And I think, Michigan obviously has Ohio State and Michigan State, but for Notre Dame, like I said, USC is public enemy number one. There's not near the proximity. Michigan is our neighbor, so they're right here. And then the other part of this is I don't consider Stanford a rival as much as Notre Dame keeps trying to tell us it's a rival. Like, it just doesn't feel like anyone really feels that as a rival, even though they're keeping them on the schedule indefinitely, as long as they can anyway, going forward. And like, Navy is less a rivalry game to me as it is a time-honored tradition. It's more that than it is a rivalry.
On board with that 100%. Yes. And it's one that I don't want to get rid of.
Right.
I wouldn't call it a rivalry because
and it just feels like there needs to be, like, I would, Notre Dame and Michigan are natural rivals, and it's sometimes like nasty rivals that go way back. And like, I think a lot of people would like to see that added. And as Andrew was in here yesterday, I think NBC would eat up that opportunity if you had the chance to have, like, if you were guaranteed basically every other year you're going to have Notre Dame USC, Notre Dame Michigan on NBC from Notre Dame Stadium. I think that NBC would eat that up, plus some potential opportunities to even have some of the road games because of the fact that NBC is part of the Big Ten deal now as well.
Right. So I would like to see some more Big Ten games, if I'm being honest. I like Purdue. I like Michigan State, as far as opponents on the schedule, that kind of thing. And I would be okay, like, I really enjoyed the Wisconsin game when they played. You know what I mean? Like, I would be okay with some additional, like, Big Ten, more regional type games. I'd be okay with that, as opposed to like joining the Big Ten. I don't want to do that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I could, if they never played Michigan again, I would be okay with that. Like, that's where I hate them so much, I don't even want to talk to them. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at. So, but that's me, right? As I can also see the bigger picture, right? And I know that Michigan Notre Dame means a lot to a lot of people, and they want to see that game. I'm not blind to that, right? And that, if you can get that on a schedule on a regular basis like that, I totally get it. It's gonna, game day would show up, and it would be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with that. I just don't like it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I get it. Like, some people would rather see Ohio State on the schedule than Michigan. I personally would rather see Michigan on the schedule than Ohio State.
I just want to beat the Buckeyes, man. Like, that's all I want. Once Notre Dame beats them, get them off the schedule. That's fine. Like, they need to beat them at some point.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll have more chances in the playoffs.
I know, right?
I don't know. See, Chad is in there. He is wholehearted. He wants to play Michigan every year. And so, like, I would rather see, like you said, you'd like to see Purdue and Michigan State back on. I'm not as into them. Like, if I had to pick one from this area, I would just assume it be Michigan. So, and again, the thing that I threw out there with the alternating is sort of like your last, I don't want to say last ditch, but it's an alternative to, okay, USC, you need to alleviate at least some travel. So we'll do this every 2 years. And then I think it would, just be awesome to have that other rival on the schedule every couple of years as well. And that way, everybody from each school, like if you're a Notre Dame guy, you're going to play USC twice and Michigan twice in your 4 years at Notre Dame. And ditto, like for USC, you're going to play Notre Dame twice in your 4 years. If you're Michigan, you're going to play Notre Dame twice in your 4 years. So
yeah, I
think it'd be pretty great.
Like I said, I'm not against it. I just don't like it personally. Like, that's all. And I'm an old man.
I know.
Changes.
I know.
Like, it is.
Was counting on that being your answer.
Yeah, my man. I'm glad. I'm glad you can count on me.
That's right.
Hey, I got some breaking news for you.
Okay.
The Indianapolis Colts have re-signed free agent Danny Pinner.
Oh, really?
As of half hour ago.
Wow, I didn't realize he was a free agent.
Yeah. So, good job, Danny.
All right, congratulations to him. South Bend guy.
Yep, guy that played with Jesse, and I coached him, and so great family. So we're always rooting for Danny. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Whew, my sister's Cal Poly team, by the way, held off by 2 points, 56-54.
Man,
they were outscored 24-14 in the fourth quarter, but held on and won by 2. So they survive and advance for another day. So go Mustangs.
There you go.
Let me see. Notre Dame men's basketball. Back to some hoops talk.
Oh boy.
They saw their season end in the second round of the ACC tournament today against North Carolina, lost by 20. My question to you, Vince, has the needle moved forward in Micah Shrewsberry's first 2 years at Notre Dame?
It's interesting the way you worded that, because like if you start the needle like when he was hired and you go through year one, so I feel like if the needle was like over here when he was hired, so like year one, I feel like it's like, here, and then year two, I feel like it kind of, I feel like you backtracked a little bit, okay? But overall, is it higher than when he took over? Yes, right? So the needle has moved in a positive direction within the 2 years, but I feel like they kind of went backwards a little bit in year two. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like how much of that can be forgiven by the fact that Burton was out for as long as he was?
Six
Like,
games.
do you think he makes a difference? Like, does he give him 4 more wins if he's in there?
Maybe. And you can't count on injuries, obviously.
Yeah.
But they just didn't do a very good job of like figuring it out when he wasn't in. You know what I mean? And injuries are a part of the game. I just felt like the defensive intensity wasn't as good as it was a year ago. And like we talked about this a little bit earlier, it just felt like they didn't want to be there at times in the middle of the season. And that's the problem that I have. That's like the wins and losses isn't necessarily the issue for me. It's the product that I'm watching on a regular basis. Because I watch most of the games.
Yeah.
This year, like I think I missed a couple, right? I just feel like,
God bless you, by the way.
Well, I'm all in now that somebody
you
else.
You and anyone else, because I'm not trying to take shots at him, but like I said,
it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch.
Here's the only, I don't want to say like Joseph is saying, terrible season for Notre Dame men's basketball, not good enough. Well, I mean, obviously the 1-loss record is not good enough, but part of that is like because of where the game is, as I said earlier, besides, Marcus Burton at the top of the list and probably Braden Shrewsberry, number 2, there's not a lot on that team. And as you were saying before, like, they were, relying on a Princeton transfer to come in and be this difference maker. There's not a lot of athleticism on that team. There's a lot of missed shots on that team on the regular. They don't move exceptionally well, like they don't close out well because of the lack of athleticism, again, with the exception of a couple guys, but a lot of that is because he has basically been cobbling together roster. He definitely had to cobble one together last year, and then you deal with, more transfer portal flux and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think that the needle is pretty much stuck where it was. I really don't think that it has moved, but next year is the year. Like, it's to me, it's all on what we see next year, year 3 with those young guys coming in.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Stymie makes a good point. Some of those younger guys got a lot of time, a lot of minutes here towards the end of the season when Shrewsberry was like, well, it's kind of a lost season. Might as well start playing these young guys. I think that helped. It was a bad season. Like, and I don't even necessarily look at the wins and losses. I look at the product that I'm watching.
Yeah.
And the product that I was watching was hard to watch most of the time. These last few games have been fun to watch. They played hard. You know what I mean? Yes, they won some of those games, but it's because they played hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I can get on board with a team like that. Look, their win-loss record wasn't great last year either, but everybody felt good about that team and the trend that they were on because of the way they played the game. You know what I mean? And I didn't see that the whole season. I saw it at the end, but I didn't see it the whole season. So that's just my only trepidation at this point. There's a lot riding on year 3. No doubt about it. Riding on year 3. I need to see a good jump from year 2 to year 3 at this point. Not saying they got to go to the Sweet 16 or, anything like that.
But again, like I was saying earlier, like at a very minimum, you need to be on the bubble for the tournament a year from now.
Yeah.
Like that's my minimal expectation is they're on the bubble. If not, so basically you're in the conversation for the NCAA tournament. Honestly, I thought we'd see a little bit more of a bump
Yes.
from year 1 to year 2, and we just didn't see it, unfortunately.
Yep, I wanted them to be on the bubble this year, maybe miss out, maybe make an NIT run. Like that's kind of what I was hoping for this year. They're nowhere near that. Next year, I mean, again, if I expected a bubble team this year, and I'm expecting a jump from year 2 to year 3, do I expect is expecting a bubble team the right thing to expect? Like, is that the step up that we're looking for? Or is, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know what my expectation is yet.
I mean, honestly, I thought that they would at least be in the conversation for the NIT this year, but they're not even there.
Close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Right. Like that would have at least been a positive step for me. And then we could have said the needle has moved forward. But I agree. It's pretty much neutral. And like Stymie says, Mohammed, Sundra, and Serta show promise as freshmen. And again, not that I was expecting them to all light the world on fire, but I did think that we were going to see more from those guys as freshmen than what we did this year.
Right, when he didn't play them, and so I don't know what, I think Sir Muhammad was injured early on in the season and they had, some issues and stuff like that, but didn't see him at all until really the last month of the season.
That's right. Decaf says, big dance or bust. They have a top 5 recruiting class.
Okay. That's fantastic. It's not big dance or bust. I don't subscribe to that yet. Let's see how they play. I wanted to play some scrappy defense. I want to move the ball a little bit more, and I want Marcus Burton running the point. I can tell you right now, Marcus Burton hits the transfer portal in 12 days when it opens up. You might as well go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
That's
going to be rough. That's going to be rough. And, I saw someone ask Decaf actually when does he hit the portal? I don't think that is a definite by any means, but at the same time, because of the state of college basketball, it's definitely in play.
Oh,
but he's a local guy who always wanted to play at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
He's had that opportunity for 2 years. Is that enough? Like, did he get enough out of this experience to now say, okay, I want to go somewhere where I can, play for a team that's at least going to be in the tournament, maybe have a chance to win a championship?
Look, outside of being a Notre Dame fan, which I am, and watching him in high school and all of those different things, right? He's a great kid. Would you blame him if he wanted to go to a team that was pretty much guaranteed to go to the tournament and make a run? I wouldn't. I would not blame this kid. It would suck as a Notre Dame fan. I would not blame him. This is not the season that he wanted. You know what I mean? And it's not the season anybody at Notre Dame wanted, right? Inside the program and all of that. But I wouldn't blame him if he transferred to a better team. I really wouldn't. And, whether that comes with money or otherwise, the goal when you play college basketball is to make the tournament. And Notre Dame has been nowhere near that in his first 2 years.
Yeah. Stymie says he'd be sick if he went to Syracuse and joined JJ Starling. And I mean, again, like there was coaching turnover and everything else when Starling left, but it does kind of like what kind of difference could that have made if Starling were still here instead of up there in Syracuse?
That absolutely. I don't see Syracuse as a landing spot for Marcus Burton. I'll just say that.
So there's been talk over the last few years about expanding the NCAA tournament, and this is something that continues to swirl. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark said this week he's in favor of expanding the field to 76 teams. The NCAA recently looked at a proposal that will expand the tournament by having play-in games for the 10 through 12 seeds. All the 10 through 12 seeds would be play-in opponents. Do you buy or sell that?
Could not be. This is the biggest sell of the night for me. I do not want more teams in. I didn't like it when it went from 64 to 68. I know that it used to be smaller than 64, but I grew up with 64, so 64 is like my number. I didn't like when they expanded to 68. I absolutely do not want them to expand any further. Huge sell for me.
I am completely at the other end of the spectrum on this. I'm probably in the minority because I keep seeing people complaining, why do you need to expand it? It's fine the way it is. Why not expand it? Like that is that much more product to have on TV. Thursday and Friday are two of the best days of the year, the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament. Why not add to it on Tuesday and Wednesday with play-in games for the 10, 11, and 12 seeds? Why not do it? Why not do it? It's that much more fun.
There's play-in games now. Do you watch them?
I don't watch as much of the 16 seeds. The 16 seeds.
Okay, all right.
If they are, if you're doing it in the 10 through 12 range, that means that you're going to get
those are the bubble teams. I mean,
they're bubble teams.
Conference,
you're going to get a lot of maybe a mix. I think it would also help. There's no way to set this in stone every year, but if you had mid-majors playing bigger conference teams, that would kind of add to some of the excitement of those games as well. And that's my point. I think that they would be, for the most part, good quality games because of the fact that they would be that 10 through 12 range like they're talking about. So this is a buy for me. I like it.
Wow. Okay.
And I wonder, one, it's more TV inventory for CBS and, the TV partners. And two, whether you like it or not, sports wagering is the thing. And that's that much more, for the sports wagering crowd, which also adds to the viewership for games like those. Makes it even greater. So I'm in on it. On it.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. I get it. I'm just, hey man, the game that I'm just too old school. It's Thursday and freaking Friday. That's it. Stop messing with the rest of the week. Okay. I have to deal with enough teachers being out on Thursday and Friday. I don't want to have to deal with more being out all week. Okay.
Okay.
It's about me. Damn it.
It's the czar, the pen czar. So, Vince, Aaron Rodgers is apparently choosing between the Steelers and the Giants as his next home. If the Steelers and the Giants are the two options, what is the choice for Aaron Rodgers?
I think the choice is the Steelers, just because it's a more put together program, like franchise, right? I mean, it's a very sturdy, steady franchise. They have better wide receiving core, I believe, than the Giants.
Just added DK Metcalf. Yep.
The Giants are they're a dumpster fire generally. And more often than not, they're a dumpster fire. I would say as far away from the Giants as humanly possible. And if I were him, I would go to the Steelers. That's what I would do.
I mean, they're both tough divisions,
Sure.
You had two playoff teams, from the NFC East, if he went to the Giants, and you had two playoff teams with a chance for, even, the Bengals were knocking on the door. So it's not like, I guess the Steelers were one of the playoff teams. So I guess, but my point is, the Steelers just seems like if Aaron Rodgers is going to stick around for another year and he's already 41 years old, I realize he was just in New York and he played for the Jets and all that kind of stuff, but it just feels like you go to the Steelers, you've got viable receiving options, you've got DK Metcalf, one of the best, and you've got a great head coach who finds a way to get even the most average teams into the playoffs. Why would you not choose that? It feels like Aaron Rodgers might be playing a little bit of a game right now, just by the fact that he hasn't already made a decision.
As a GM, why?
Irish Eye says he'd retire if those were his options.
Well, that's fair. But as a GM, just looking at the product that Aaron Rodgers has put on the field the last 2 years, now 1 year he was injured or whatever, is that really the direction that you want to go? That's all I'm saying.
Well, but for the Steelers, you just traded for DK Metcalf, so you've got one of the top 10 receivers in the game, but you've got no quarterback because you're not going to bring back Russell Wilson. Justin Fields already signed with the Jets, so you've got to have somebody.
Yeah,
I
guess so.
Unless you're going to go back and try to bring Mitch Trubisky back into the fold. They've already gone down that road once, so it's just like Stymie says, as a GM, he'd take Rodgers over Danger Russ Wilson, and it sounds like Russ Wilson burnt his bridges sufficiently when he was in Pittsburgh for his 1 year. So
I don't know. I
How
feel like
about
there's
this option?
plenty of backups out there. Oh God, sure, he'll be available in a year. I feel like there's other backup options that you can go find and sign that would be better. I'll just say that. I'll leave it at that.
I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are.
He's more problem. He's more of a problem than he's worth, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree with that, but the Steelers are desperate, I think, because you don't go trade for DK Metcalf if you're not planning on being a contending playoff team.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't like Aaron Rodgers either, it seems like there just aren't that many options if you're actually going to go to the playoffs and win playoff games. So new West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez has banned his players from TikTok dancing. Good idea or bad idea?
I think it's a freaking great idea. Another huge buy for me. And this has nothing to do with the fact that I hate that app more than any other app on the planet. It's a huge buy. Now, I don't know how well it's going to go over. I feel like TikTok has only been a problem because it's guys in the locker room like dancing after wins or whatever. And it never ends well. You know what I mean? So like, I'm really okay with it. Like, ban it. It needs to be banned. It's a problem. Get rid of it.
There's still Instagram. They can still IG dance, right? Like there's still other platforms they can dance on.
But ban it all. Steal their phones.
He's going to let them, like you can still like post your stuff on TikTok apparently, but he just doesn't want TikTok dancing. So I think it's kind of stupid if you ask me. It's
I thought they can banning him completely. Okay.
No, they can still be on it. He just doesn't want them doing dancing videos for some reason, which seems like
okay.
To me, it just seems like an old guy, trying to institute rules, with young guys doing their thing. By the way, like you said that you hate that app more than any other app. I didn't realize you had such deep hatred for TikTok.
It comes from being in this office.
So is that like you guys, like, is that an issue in a school? Like the TikTok stuff?
Number one, it's the kids trying to dance in the hallways and like in the stairwells,
shooting their videos, and
then it's also kids posting threats and doing different things like that. It's a social media in general is a problem. That one's a problem.
Yeah, Stymie's got a good idea. Just block the Wi-Fi in the locker room instead.
Along those lines, I would ban cell phones from the locker room. I wouldn't let them in.
I think that's probably the best idea.
That's what I would. That's what I would do. So
I did see after the whole, like TikTok got banned in the US or whatever.
Like a day and a half. Yeah.
Oh, so that's not a thing? I guess I wasn't even following up on that. Because I had heard that if you already had TikTok on your smartphone, like those phones were going for a lot of money, like on eBay and stuff like that.
No, you can.
I didn't realize. So like, I thought it was like a grandfather situation. Like if you already had TikTok, but you just couldn't download it, but you can, so people can still download TikTok in the US then.
Yeah, it was off there for a little.
I'm showing my old white guy.
Well, it's because I have 4 teenagers in my house. This is why I know this, and I deal with them on a regular basis. But yeah,
I'm going to say if it was banned and your kids had TikTok, you could sell those phones and go out and make some money.
Done yesterday. It's I believe it's back in the App Store. It's available now. Like it was only gone. It was less than a week, and it was brought back.
I feel like we need to start making some TikTok videos then, Vince. I was actually, I can't remember what game it was, but I was walking. It was after a game. It was after a win, not after a loss, just to get that. But there were a couple of the Notre Dame players, like out by the bus. Filming themselves doing the dance. Yep.
We have this one stairwell here at the school where every time I look over at the camera, there's kids like dancing and doing TikToks. And we put a sign up. They're like, we can see you dancing. It's wonderful, but let's not do TikToks here or something like that. You know what I mean? It was actually pretty funny. But it is not as big of an issue. Like the dancing in school is not as big of an issue here as it was at my last school.
Okay.
Big time problem in my last school. So
I can see that. Yep. So a Connecticut lawmaker has introduced a bill that would require movie theaters to disclose what time the trailers start before the movie and what time the movie actually starts. Do you buy or sell
So I know I said earlier that was my biggest buy of the night.
it? You switching? You
I
cashing
was
in?
wrong.
Rolling your chips here?
It is this. I am all in. I'm pushing them all in on this because number one, I will not say whose fault it is, but we run late a lot. And to movies specifically.
Uh-huh.
And I would like to know if I'm missing the beginning of the movie.
What am I actually missing?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I missing the preview?
What's my drop dead time?
Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I want that information, but I am not disclosing that information to my family members. This is the time we need to be here is what I'm saying. But I want to know if I've got a window here. And, you know, some movies have no previews. Some movies have like 20 minutes of previews.
I don't know what movies you've gone to that have no previews, because everything I've been to in the last couple of years, it's like they get longer and Brian said 20 minutes you don't get back. I mean, like you sit there and it's like one after the next, and it's like, that first one looked kind of good. The rest of them, it's like you saw one good trailer, you just watched 8 trailers and you saw one good one out of the whole 8. And so this is a complete buy for me as well. Like, because here's what's going to happen. Movie theaters, they're all afraid because of the advertising. They put the advertising up front.
Sure.
And then you get into the trailers, and then you get a couple more ads before the movie starts. And all these theaters are in such desperate shape that they want, this captive audience to watch all this stuff. I mean, you know what's going to happen, though. Like, if you just publish the time, most people are going to disregard it anyway, and they're still going to show up and watch at least half the trailers. But like you said, you want to know what your drop dead time is. You want to know, because this is what gets me is like my wife. It's like, come on, we got to go. We got to go early. We got to get there. It's like, what's going to happen when we get there. We're going to sit there for 25 minutes before anything even starts. Why are we in such a rush to get there?
You're not wrong. You're not, like I said, you guys are a little different in your stage of life. If I'm just taking my wife, we don't really have.
I get it with you. Yeah.
Like when the whole, as my dad used to say, the whole famdamily is coming. Like, I need to know that window, man. Like, I need to know the gray area because and it's always like, well, we got to the parking lot on time. Yeah, you didn't buy the tickets. You didn't get the popcorn. You didn't get the drinks. You didn't stand in line. That all takes time, folks. Like,
well, see, and that's the thing too, is like we always buy our tickets. Well, not always, but like when we go to the theater that's closer to you guys, because you get the reserve tickets and all that.
And those are smaller theaters.
Yeah, we do that in advance. So like she does that, gets us in. I go stand in line for the concessions, that kind of thing. But like Brian says, the popcorn's done before the movie, and that is like, because once I start eating that popcorn, man, which happens as soon as we sit down, I cannot stop. And it's like you're 5 minutes into the movie and the popcorn's gone.
That's part of the movie. And the movie theater we go to, you have to prepare your own popcorn, which I prefer, by the way.
Oh, are you at the Dream Theater up there in Niles?
Yeah, man. Because you can layer the butter and do it correctly. And, so I'm all about that. But to get the properly buttered thing of popcorn takes a little bit of time. All right. So you got to get there earlier. So like I said, I need my window. I am writing my congressman. I want this to pass. I want this.
Irish Ice says pick your seat first, then the concession. Well, one, again, like there's one of the theaters here in town where you've got to get reserve seats. So like, where you're going to be sitting regardless. And 2, like most theaters these days are like 3/4 empty anyway.
It's true.
So it's like you don't feel like, around here anyway, you don't feel like you've got to be rushed.
Going on like opening weekend or a very, like if I'm going to a kiddie movie and it's like Sunday afternoon, I think it's going to be a little busier. You know what I mean? Or a Saturday afternoon, going to be a little busier. So you got to, Keith, my man right there, he knows where we're going. Yeah. So you got to be strategic about which ones you go to, obviously. So I'm personally a matinee guy. It's cheaper, you know, get it done.
We do too.
Yeah.
We very rarely go to a night movie.
Oof. Like
usually it's a weekend, you know, like
yeah,
looking to kill some time on a Sunday afternoon or something like that.
Yeah, 100%.
Mess with the bull, you get the horns. Go into a little Mr. Vernon Breakfast Club from DK. Speaking of which, Christopher asking which one of the characters from the breakfast. I mean, that's easy for me. There was a wrestler. There was a high school wrestler in the Breakfast Club. I'm Andrew. Yeah, Emilio Estevez for sure.
You're the jock. I don't know that any of the characters in that movie really, you know, I fit in one of those molds, to be perfectly honest with you, because I had my foot in like the athletic mold because I played a bunch of sports, and then I had my foot in like I did theater and stuff like that. So I was a weird kid. So I don't think I really fit in any of those molds. So, you know,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Irish Eyes misses the trailer. Vince DK says you're the janitor.
That's messed up.
You're Carl the janitor.
Messed up, DK. But I expect nothing less from you.
Came at him. No one's making fun of janitors, by the way. We had a lot of good ones.
They are the lifeblood of this building. I can promise you that.
Yep, for sure. All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you being here. Good questions in the mailbag earlier. We will be back tomorrow. It's a we in, we out day tomorrow, so that means I got to make a post on the Champions Lounge. And
you and me tomorrow.
I don't think I've done a we in, we out show since before basketball started.
Because you always had games on Thursdays.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's been a long time. So we in, we out coming up tomorrow. Vince and I will be back for that. And we will talk to you then. Hit the like button before you leave. We'll talk to you later on IB Nation Sports Talk.